We good to go then, I guess? Cool. All right, well, thanks for coming. My name is Ethan Collins. I'm with Yoda One Games in Beijing. First and foremost, a marketing and community manager there, working on games like Rodeo Stampede. But I also, on the side, am an evangelist for KT Play, which is a community tool that we use at Yoda One. But yeah, I'm going to be talking sort of about our sort of experiences managing communities at Yoda One, and touch a little bit on sort of what other big players in the gaming industry are doing with their communities to sort of innovate and empower and influence their mobile game communities. So awesome. All right, so how can you use your mobile game community? Well, at Yoda One, we use our mobile game communities for two main things, right? The first is to improve our player experiences. We use the community to make the game our players want, to sort of handle bugs in a quick and responsive way, and to provide player guides to, make sure players are playing the game the way that our game designers designed it. And then naturally, a big part of communities is marketing. We use our communities to promote our game. We've managed to tie communities to influencer marketing. We've used our communities to really drive hype around new content and to generate word-of-mouth marketing. So I'll go into all of these sort of in detail over the course of this talk. All right. So make the game your players want. When mobile games started, years and years ago at this point, it was really a game as a product. You could develop something, throw it up on the App Store, throw it up on the Google Play Store, and aside from a few little bug fixes or making sure your game is compatible with the latest operating system, you didn't really have to do too much to keep your player base happy. You could just throw it up there, and that was it. Though, as I'm sure many of you mobile game developers are familiar with, the game ecosphere has sort of developed a lot, and we're now looking at games more as a service that we have to regularly update to meet our players' needs, as well as to provide more reasons to market our games. At Yoda One, we try and push updates every 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks definitely, to really make sure that our loyal player base is happy and has reasons to keep coming back, and to tell their friends, oh, this game is awesome, it just got this new update, as well as a reason to go back to the App Store and to the Play Store and say, hey, we've got some new content, be sure to give us a feature and give us some love. But actually quite a lot from a design and art standpoint, right? Players oftentimes come up with lots and lots of contributions to really develop out your game further and can provide some very valuable feedback. So there's this game actually called Hempire, which is developed by not Yoda One, but by LBC Studios. They're based in Canada. It's a weed-based game, so you grow weed and you sell it, a little more PG-13, they wanted to sort of get the players involved in their game design process, right? So they ended up running this great community event where essentially they challenged players to come up with designs for new strains of weed, and provided them with an in-game reward to do so if they were able to break above the mold and really stand out amongst the ideas. So players came up with all sorts of ideas, including this sort of wake and bake bud or bacon bud that this guy came up with and drew, which ended up turning into game art. So this event was run, I guess, over the summer, and this past September, it finally made it into the game itself. So they really were able to take, help from their players, feedback from their players, and drive it directly into the game, giving them, their players, a direct role in the game design process. So, this is a situation where the game developers in LBC, in that case, they sort of had final say in what content made it into the game. But this Chinese team, Chili Room, with their game Soul Knight, ran a similar competition where they said, okay, design all of these new skins for our characters. And so Soul Knight is a sort of roguelike RPG where you have all these characters go and fight evil creatures in the dungeons. And they were adding a a skin system to deepen the game, add more monetization points. But they wanted some help designing the characters themselves, and they wanted something that players would go and spend money on and actually monetize. So they ran a similar event where they said, "Hey, design all the skins for us," and then they actually put each skin up to a vote to let the players say, "Okay, which skins do you like the most? Which one should we put in our future update?" So they are currently, the event ran out at the start of September, and they're all coming soon. But I anticipate all sorts of boosted monetization and the sorts when the updates go live and players can actually buy the skins that they either created themselves or ended up voting for and made part of their game. Cool. So communities are also really important for solving bugs. So bugs, as everyone knows, are a pain and it hurts your ASO and also your ASS. So for anyone who's put up a mobile game onto the Play Store or the App Store, I'm sure there's been times when you've seen something negative like this pop up. The update broke the joystick, something was going wrong, 1 star. Unfortunately, these 1-star ratings lower your overall rating on the store, making your game harder to find. And also when players do find the game on the store, they see the bug and say, oh, this game's broken, I don't want to download it. So being able to sort of make these problems smaller and less apparent is very important. So why do players write on the App Store, 1 star, this bug is ruining the game? Well, oftentimes it's because they need to vent their frustration to someone or something, the dev. And if there's no way for them to get in touch, they're going to just put it right there up on the store. So sometimes they'll find email as well as a potential option, but that also has its problems, right? So if you're a player and you run into a bug, you have to write your complaint to support. Support then has to send an email back asking for information for reproducing the bug, and then hopefully that player responds quickly, but not all the time. And they respond, and then you essentially can respond saying, thanks, we're working on it, we'll have a response soon. So one of the issues though is that this process can take a long time and is not necessarily the most efficient, but if you're doing direct player to dev or player to support emails, you're going to get a few of them. Right? And it takes time from your support team, or if you yourself as a dev is sort of handling the support, it takes time to sort of respond individually to all these players, which is no fun. So what do we do at Yoda One to sort of help with this problem? So we approach our bugs rather publicly in our game community. So in Rodeo Stampede, a game which we launched with Featherweight, Australian-based team, we recently had this tiny animal bug, which was rather cute in my opinion. But essentially, the animals running in the Stampede started appearing super mini, and for whatever reason, they weren't appearing at their natural size. So people were starting to write into our community, sharing these photos, saying like, "What's going on with these animals? Like, why are they small? What are you guys doing to fix it?" And we were essentially, by using our game community, able to sort of collect valuable information right there in our game, because people were uploading screenshots, videos, the like, right there for us to look at. And we could respond to them also in real time, right in our community. So we have this response from us saying, the devs are aware of this bug, thanks for posting it here as well, right? And by sort of handling this right there in the game in real time, we're able to prevent a lot of these complaints and sort of grievances from getting directly onto the App Store, again, hurting our ASO. So. Lastly, we use our communities to sort of lend the players the help they need. So we actually published Transformers Earth Wars in China. It's a strategy MMO game developed by a team in London called SpaceApe. And we ended up signing it, and we're sort of pushed to meet a deadline this past year. The Transformers 5 movie came out in, was it May or June, Tony? Oh, July, okay. But anyways, we had to get to the game out before the movie came to make sure we could make the most of the launch to really drive our game's performance. So the SpaceApe version had a very solid tutorial set up for a Western audience. But our Chinese audience needs a little more hand-holding. So for any people that have experienced game development for the Chinese market, Chinese users need a lot more guidance and a lot more sort of step-by-step help to really grasp a game's mechanics than their Western counterparts. So we kind of were forced to make sure that we could get a viable build out in time, but we didn't really have the time or resources to redesign the tutorial entirely. So what did we do based on this time crunch? We decided to put the tutorial videos to sort of compound on what was already there by the SpaceApe version directly into our game community, right? So for anyone that can't read Chinese, that top button on the left says 新手学堂, which is essentially the new user school or classroom. So we had this whole collection of videos right there in-game for players to watch and become acquainted with the game mechanics, right? So that's sort of a way that we sort of helped mitigate this solution, or this problem. But for any game developers here, the tutorial is always something that you have to fine tweak. It's always something that you're going to want to improve upon and really make sure that your players are grasping all the concepts and grasping all the strategies. So regardless of whether you're putting videos in for time crunch reasons or whether you're just trying to improve the overall churn rate, using your community as a helping hand, whether it's player-based tutorials or sort of publisher dev-based tutorials, having the community there as a support system is a strong way to really drive support. Cool. So that's sort of the half on improving your gameplay experience. But a lot of community management is also about marketing, right? So it's about taking your game community surrounding your title and pushing it, these players out to the rest of the world and helping them sort of be your biggest advocates and your biggest supporters for your game. So Influencers. So influencer marketing, as many of you may know, is becoming an increasingly important part of marketing a mobile game. 90% of gamers turn to YouTube for weekly gaming advice, and 64% of gamers download a game after they see it on YouTube. A few years ago, influencers were cheap and easy to work with. You could send them some in-game rewards, and they'd be like, thank you very much, I'll make a great video, share it with my fans, and boom, there's a few thousand downloads for your game. The issue is that this market has sort of developed, and a lot of these influencers now have managers who then work with agents, who then work with you, which means that prices are high. I've been approached by some influencers asking for a fee that on an ECPM basis costs more than buying a Super Bowl ad, which is just ludicrous if you ask me. So what can you do to sort of work with these influencers better and lower the costs? Well, we were able at Yoda One to sort of create win-win scenarios with some of our big influencers that we worked with. So we actually were able to integrate them directly into our community events. So we worked with this YouTuber Think Noodles this past summer to sort of push out our new Jurassic Zone in Rodeo Stampede. So we had dinosaurs, a dinosaur-based map that was really exciting. A lot of players had been asking for dinosaurs, and we wanted to, get the word out and drive as much hype as possible. So Think Noodles, is a fairly sizable influencer with well over 1.5 million subscribers. And he, on first glance is relatively costly to work with. But we wanted to figure out a way where we could both win by working with him. So what did we do? Essentially, we ran this whole competition with him as the star.
Also, so let's be Velociraptor. Now,
entire
the developer had an idea that on their KT Play in game thing that they wanted for me to give a challenge, and that challenge is to ride a raptor as far as possible.
About 20,000.
All right, guys. So here is my best run for the Raptor Run Challenge, and I just wanted to hit a certain milestone, and I finally did it after way too long. Some of you guys will beat this on your very first try, I am sure. So guys, the prizes for this Raptor Run Challenge are anyone who enters will win a limited edition Chinese New Year Gorilla, and anyone who beats my high score will win an energy pack too, and the top 50 cowboys or cowgirls who run the furthest will get a free cash cow, which will double your zoo income.
Loads of players.
Now, the way you enter is record a gameplay video of yourself running on the Raptor in the Jurassic era. Like I've got here, you have to start and end on that same animal. You can't jump to another one, and you can't revive in between. After you've recorded it, create a new post in KT Play with a type.
Cool. Another sort of event that, or another way that we work with influencers is from the community out. So we want to empower our own players. So myself and my colleague Matt Butler, who's around at the Yoda One booth, actually created this very goofy video for Transformers Earth Wars. I'll show it to you in a moment, where we essentially just wanted to have some fun and see what our player base thought of us speaking Chinese and being pretty much complete goofballs. Ultimately, we put this out into our game community, and the players loved it and sort of gave us the inspiration, okay, well, if the players like it, why don't we try putting it out on social media in China? So we ended up doing it and putting it up on Maypie, which is a mix of essentially, I guess, Instagram and Snapchat is the best comparison that I can make for Maypie. And where it got 20,000 views, which considering how quickly we put everything together, was not too bad of a performance. So I'll show it to you in a sec, or a few seconds of it. But this is something that we've gone on to actually try and replicate on a larger scale. So we're actually in the middle of another sort of Transformers-based campaign at the moment, where it's called Battle Master, where we're encouraging our Chinese players to make really cool videos to share of themselves attacking the opponent's bases in really strategic ways, really funny ways, and share it with the community. And the players that are getting the most likes, the most comments, the most shares are getting in-game rewards to help them in their own game. And the goal of this is to really drive hype within the community, but also hope that players are seeing these cool videos and sharing them out onto Chinese social media platforms, whether that be a Meipai, a WeChat, which is sort of the all-in-one Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, or a Sino Weibo, which is the Chinese Twitter. So you can see just a brief little.
大家好，我这里就是猫弟，然后坐在我右边，
my Chinese name is Terry brother.
就是四把裤衩，
我们是两个台北进球的，然后其实
see us sort of raiding the bases, but essentially, the Chinese audience really found it funny to see two white guys speaking Chinese playing this game.
不够好，一点都不够好。
All right. So, as mentioned earlier, we're now more in a software as a service game environment. So, as you create update content for your players, it's really important to get them excited about your updates, right? And to have them sort of, be eagerly anticipating what's coming next, and want to keep playing to experience the cool things that you as a developer are making. So this is actually a campaign that was done by Flare Games in their game Zombie Gunship, which was sort of a treasure hunt that they created a fictional character for, and were able to tease a brand new game mode that they had. So essentially, you can see this image here, which, if you can read binary code, which I cannot, looks like zeros and ones to me, it says, I will be in touch soon. So, surely enough, this mysterious character was in touch within the game community of Zombie Gunship Survival. And they left this very cryptic message that looks like a bunch of gibberish. And the players were sort of like, WTF is going on? What's the message? The heck are you? What is it? Is this some sort of code or something? And someone started getting it before this guy finally cracked it and was able to decide that it was a Caesar cipher with a shift of 6, and has been decoded as, you have been waiting for me and I have information for you. It will help you get prepared for what's coming. Head to the official source.com and look for anything suspicious. So players were able to figure this out and go to the Flare Games website, the Zombie Gunship website, where they saw, and I don't know how well you can see it, but the launch trailer is kind of blurred out, and so you could click the link and see this new video. So, instead of just posting something out to the community saying, hey, we have a new update coming, here's what it is. Flare Games was really able to be creative and gamify the whole update experience, and really, engaging their most committed members and players to promote the content which they had been working hard on to push. So instead of going with a mundane announcement, they really were able to turn it into something unique and special for their players, which their players in turn were thankful for and really enjoyed. So Flare is actually using their this fictional character now on a much more wide-scale basis to drive hype within the community and run all sorts of events and the like. So. Cool. The next thing is really that we use communities for is to turn our players into our most ardent supporters. If you can figure out how to reliably crack word of mouth marketing as a marketer, you've achieved the dream. You want to be able to sort of figure out how to do this and really make sure that your players are saying to their friends, download this game, it's awesome, because your friend telling you that is much more than seeing a video ad somewhere on another mobile game. So we haven't quite cracked that entirely at Yoda One, but we have run some events that got us going in the right direction through our community. So last year when Rodeo Stampede launched in China, we actually ran a community event that challenged players to catch a new animal and share it on their WeChat moments. And again, WeChat is your sort of Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp all in one for the Chinese people. And so if they're able to do this and get 10 likes on their WeChat, take a screenshot of it and put it back in the community. We sent them these awesome in-game rewards, which they could use to continue playing the game. At this point in time, since Rodeo Stampede was a week into launch, players were super stoked to kind of show off all the cool animals that Dan Graff, who is walking around here somewhere, had created. So like the psychedelephant and the quarterback gorilla and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So this was something that a lot of players ended up participating in. In fact, we had a participation rate of 33%, and we're able to reach over 150,000 users virally through this event. So actually what you're seeing here is an App Annie chart here for our downloads over the first 2 weeks of Rodeo Stampede. So we were able to snag that nice feature from Apple the very first week, which sort of is shown right here. But we lost that going into the second weekend. And we didn't want to run any performance-driven UA event campaigns at that time for the second week. We were still sort of getting metrics and seeing how things worked. But we did want to run something to try and drive more hype into the game. So we lost our feature around this point, and the only other real marketing event that we were doing for the second week was this campaign event. Despite losing the feature, we were able to, just through primarily word-of-mouth marketing alone, keep our downloads high and stay at the top of the charts, resulting in even more organic downloads at no cost, essentially. So it was a highly successful event, and really helped us grow the Rodeo Stampede game in China. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of sort of what we're doing and what some other teams are doing in terms of using their communities to really make great games, both in terms of improving the game experience and in terms of marketing their titles. So thanks. I hope it was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. It's a tricky one. I'm not entirely sure myself, but I think it's partially because a lot of them didn't have the sort of experiences growing up playing PC and console games. Gaming is a relatively new thing for a lot of Chinese people who have just broken into the middle class. A lot of the things that seem a little more secondhand nature to us as Westerners might not they might not have had that experience growing up playing the games to really get that hand-holding experience. Yeah. So we kind of have a two-tiered approach to that. So we actually have a mix of sort of like official accounts that are posting within our communities or on Facebook, as well as sort of more, direct, relatable people, characters that sort of soften that edge and make the community managers and moderators feel like just an average Joe, right? So you kind of have the top-down approach where you can get out those really formal announcements that might need to be pushed out to the community. But we also do use sort of the more casual, I'm one of you guys approach as well. And that's something that we've seen across some of the games that I also showed up there.
How early should you be generating communities?
So my thought is that it's best to get them involved as early as possible, particularly in the soft launch region, soft launch period of time. And the reason for really useful as a developer or as a publisher to get the feedback from your player base that can help inform your design decisions, right? So if people are writing like, oh, I don't understand this aspect of the game directly within your community, you can sort of, address that as you're moving along, as well as as you're trying to figure out how to develop your game out further. Players are very creative. They can provide all sorts of cool feedback, advice, and general ideas for you to sort of drive your game forward. We try and get involved with our community, engage them as early as possible to really build a strong player base and a strong presence to sort of help us in the process as much as us helping them.
My company's going to be moving into China at the beginning of next year, which is very exciting. And I want to know what you think the biggest differences are community-wise between a Western and an Eastern audience.
So the Chinese guys are much more demanding. For Transformers Earth Wars, we've actually had people show up at our office demanding to speak with product managers because they had the best idea ever. We grab one of our community managers or our customer support agents and say, here's the product manager, talk with them. That's sort of the extent of which players will really go out and get involved. I think generally speaking as well, for Transformers, we have all sorts of WeChat and QQ groups. So QQ is sort of like the AIM that never died in China, as well as WeChat, as I mentioned, it's kind of like WhatsApp, that are sort of forming around the game. So a lot of the big clans in Transformers have their own sort of chats going on and whatnot. So the community base really gets deep and heavily involved. They really are much more demanding and than your average Western gamer. Yeah. Cool. Anything else, or?
Just dance.
Yeah.
Do you have somewhere that we can contact you, like a Twitter account or?
Well, I'm going to be at the booth, so we have a booth right by the coffee area, so feel free to drop by, and yeah, happy to chat more if anyone has any more questions. So, cool.